Apologies about that break. The file size got too large. So yes, Ash, you would be allowed to retaliate or fall back if you activated that unit because they have not been activated yet. So it's your activation. You can choose whatever you want to do.
I'm going to retaliate.
You're going to retaliate?
Yes.
With what? Because you have both your warband and your behemoth in close combat.
Right.
Bear in mind, both of these units have already attacked. So I suppose you could move another unit. And these two, the warband and the behemoth, aren't in danger of being attacked. Because this warband is not going to be able to make it through that gap. It's simply too large. They could, I suppose, pivot 180 and move backwards, but that would expose their flanks. You can move backwards or sideways in this game, but you move half your movement. So these warband would be shuffling back a mighty 3 inches.
What if I were to move these sideways and then pivot and attack your warband from the flank?
Well,
They're ranged, aren't they?
they're ranged.
Yeah.
However, you could potentially shoot at these Raider Cavalry here, this unit. However, any roll of a 1 would, in fact, wound your own men.
Instead, I'm going to fire at these.
Go for it. You have 10 dice.
They within range?
18 inches. Yeah, of course. Let me quickly check to see if it's 10 again. I mean, I invented the rules, and yet I don't know every single unit. Yeah, it's 10 attacks. The hunters are much better at shooting than they are at fighting. Of course, I forgot a rule that I implemented. To be fair, I only implemented it last night. But there is going to be an additional archer unit that will be put in the game eventually. The hunters are meant to be the more stealthy ranged unit. And whenever they get shot at, their defense goes up by +1, which means that those hunters there might have survived. But, you know, it's a complex game with a lot of rules. I'm not going to remember everything, especially when I've only been playing it for a few months.
What did I need?
You needed 4s.
And only 1 inches myself.
You were firing against these, weren't you?
Yeah.
Then no, because you're not shooting. You're not shooting your own
I
men.
got a lot of 1s.
Yeah.
Right, so how many? Sorry, 4s.
4s. I see 3 there, so this takes 3 damage. And of course, just like that warband there, this unit is not going to be fleeing because... apologies about that. That's an alarm we have set. Apologies about that. As an alarm. Trying to keep it as professional as possible, but I mean, we're still doing this in our own home. Right. Well, I guess it's my turn to activate. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to... I don't see my Raider Cavalry lasting much longer. So I'm going to pivot these 90 degrees. Now, in a professional game, you probably want to get a device that can measure angles correctly. But in friendly games, there's no harm in...
Guesswork.
In guesswork, yeah, exactly. It's probably a good idea if I actually put this ruler up properly. And we're going to move up 6 inches. I'll just mark that with my dice there. And we'll patrol upwards. Yeah. So that means I potentially risk a rear charge from that war leader. But if she fails her charge, then I could potentially move up because in the next round, that enemy unit there, is still in my front-facing arc. So I could potentially charge it if I lose those Raider Cavalry. Ash, that is my activation, so now it's time for your activation.
How far can my behemoth charge?
Your behemoth is currently locked in combat with my behemoth. So
He turned away.
he's still locked in combat. I've turned away, but you haven't.
I'm just going to attack you here.
I know.
Oh, that's me. Well, I might as well retaliate with my behemoth then.
Well, because I've already activated this behemoth to attack your cavalry, that means I can't do anything. So you would then pivot. And now you're attacking me in the rear. Now, a behemoth has a defense of 5, but an offensive 8. The idea is that these creatures are far more aggressive than they are cautious and defensive. So you would take the I believe it's 7 dice. I'll just quickly check. No, it's 6 dice. My apologies. You take the 6 dice, and anything on a 2 would wound me. So I take 4 more points of damage. I must have moved a dice. I took 4 points of damage last time, didn't I?
Yes.
So now I'm on to 8. Now, it would be helpful to get yourself dice of different size. For example, here I'm going to be using a D20 because certain units' health pools can get pretty big. So I'm going to use this D20 to represent its health. It's taken 8 points of damage. Right, so I would then have to take a morale check. I'm wavering, unfortunately, which means I have to roll 2d6 because the first health value is 6. The first health value is 8. I've took 8 damage. So I'm rolling 2d6. My morale would normally be 6, but because I'm within my war leader, my morale value is increased.
Would
But
anything to do with me attacking your rear be?
no, because you attacked my rear, you got +2 to your offense. Your offense is normally an 8, so you would wound me on a 3. But because it's +2, it becomes a 10, which is double my defense. So then you wound me on 2s. The war leader actually increases the morale of units by 2. So I would have to roll an 8 on 2 6-sided dice. Double ones is an auto pass. That's a 7. Luckily, that is just enough to keep that behemoth in. However, it's getting wounded. If it takes another round of damage like that, then it could be fleeing from the field, potentially even dying. Right, that's your activation. I'm going to try and activate. Now, it's a bit silly. I'm going to try and... a 12 would get me to there. And then I would need a... what would I say? A 3?
That way might be easier.
Yeah, potentially. That would be a 12 would get me to there. And then I'd need probably another 2. So I need to roll 14. I've got my 2-sided dice. I'm adding 6 to this value. This would be a flank attack as well, so this would be nice. That is 7 plus 6. 13. Oh, grim. So 13. Of course, I would half that. 6.5, rounded up to 7. Ooh, my bad. I didn't mean to stab that church. I move up to 7. Before my war leader maybe sees the giant slavering 3-headed chimera and thinks it's probably best not to. As far as I'm aware, I've activated all my units, Ash. And you've got your queen, not your queen, your warlord. I suppose you can call her a queen if you want, female warlords. And your warband unit there.
I would like to attempt to get in your flank.
All right. So 6 inches would take you to here, and then... the 3. So you'd have to roll your 2d6. Unless you get double 1, you're making this charge. Yeah, you're in there with a 2 and a 3. So that unit is getting attacked on the flank. This rabid war queen charging over this mausoleum to attack this warband.
7 attacks?
7 attacks. You're wounding me on 2s because your offense is through the roof at the moment. Again, rules are subject to change. War leaders might have their offense a bit toned down. So that is 6 damage. It took 3 damage last time, wasn't it?
Yes.
So I'm on 10 damage. If I'm correct...
6 and 3 is 9.
No, it was 9, was it?
You said 3, and then another 6.
Oh, my bad. I thought you rolled all 7s. That is actually probably going to be good because a warband of a troop size only has a maximum health value of 10. Of course, as you take troops in bigger as you take units in bigger size, they get more health. So a horde of warband would have 20 health, and there'd be a bit more scary melee combat, have higher morale. But we're having a small point game, which means that warband is very close to death. If you rolled all 2s there, you would have hacked down that squad to pieces. But there's a good chance that this unit's going to fail, unless I'm lucky enough to get all 1s on this roll. And you know what, for dramatic effect... Oh! Nah, that unit's gone. It's fleeing. It's going to pivot towards the closest board edge, and it's going to rush, and I know that that's more than 12 inches, so that warband is gone. This looks like it's going to go Ash's way. And... Last activation. I've got no more units to activate, so it's actually that warband there.
No, I'm just going to shoot you.
You've already shot those hunters, Ash. You shot them into this unit here.
Oh, I'm already done. Oh no, it's okay. Yeah, right.
Yeah.
I'll retaliate with my status.
It is 10 attacks, Ash.
Okay, nice.
Yeah, a warband is a fierce unit. Not exactly. They don't hit particularly hard. But they got a lot of attacks, and they're going to be kitted out. So you would need 4s.
So, not that one, not that one, not that one. That's 6.
6 damage. That is grim. Very grim. I'll quickly check to see what the health value of cavalry are. So the Raider cavalry... Oh god, I'm broken. I have to roll... 3d6 again. Hopefully I get triple 1s. Yeah, they're off. Now here's the thing though. Is the distance between that table... Oh, actually then again. That's the closest table edge. This is problematic because this means I am retreating through an enemy unit. Now, I'll have to quickly check the rules. I'll quickly pause it and we'll come back once I've read the rules. And I'm back. I've read the rules. When you flee through an enemy unit, they get to make an attack of opportunity against you. Yeah. However, no matter what the value, no matter what the offense and defense of the units are, these attacks are always going to be hitting on a 6 no matter what. So Ash, take your 10 dice. Any 6s, you deal additional damage. If I were to retreat through a friendly unit, then that unit would have to take a morale check as well. So you could potentially cause a mass rout by having your enemy units flee through each other. Any 6s? So you rolled two 6s, which means it takes an additional 8 damage. However, not 8 damage, additional 2 damage. I know very well that is going to be more than enough to flee, because when these rush, they move up 24 inches. Yeah, Raider cavalry is very, very handy for their speed, but when they start running away, that speed suddenly becomes a disadvantage. And this is grim. Oh, I've got a behemoth, I've got a wounded behemoth left, and I've got a war leader. So what I'm going to do is that, because that's the round done, we're going to have another roll-off to see who takes the first activation. Ash's 5 to my 5. I was equal, so we'll roll again. A 1 to a 4. This is probably the only bit of good luck I've had at the moment. Well, I'm not going to waste any time. I'm going to pivot that behemoth, and I'm going to try and put yours in the grave, though I very much doubt it, because it's only taken 3 points of damage. So, behemoth was 6 attacks. Now, because I'm attacking you in the front, I don't get any bonuses. So it's just simply compare offense to defense. It is an offensive 7, or is it 8?
I think it's 8.
It's an offensive 8 versus a defensive 5. So I need 3s. Please, I want the big damage. That would be 4 points of damage to your behemoth. So you've gone up to 7. Would you like a...
Yes.
There you go. You can have that there. 7. So that's... knocked over that fence. So we're on an equalish plane there. Ash is very competitive. Okay, well, Ash, if you want to take your activation.
I'm gonna move. Can I move completely sideways?
You can move sideways, but you have to move half your movement.
Which would be?
3.
Do I not get to roll my d6 or anything?
Nope. No. You could choose to pivot and then move, because you can pivot up to 180.
And then I'll move here-ish as far as I can, which is...
You can move 6.
Okay, so...
Yeah, you've got to rush. If you rush, then...
I can't attack.
You can't attack. Now, you can only attack units that are in your front arc. However, the Warlord is within your front arc, if we measure it up. He's on the very edge of it, but still.
So you can range it.
18 inches, Ash. You can more than happily pepper him with arrows. Yep. Hopefully, his defense will help him. So you need 10 dice, Ash. Now, the Warlords tend to be the richest, most, I don't want to say pampered, but they've got the best spoils and loot. So this man has a defense of 4, actually, as opposed to the average warrior of 3, which means these arrows are only going to be wounding me on 5s.
I got 3. Nope.
4, that is pretty nasty as well. If we go quickly check, the war leader's morale is 10. So he's a fairly brave warrior, and his minimum health value is 5. Yeah. So he isn't going to flee this time.
Is it me again?
No, it's my turn to activate because I've still got my war leader. And what he's going to do is he is going to charge your behemoth in its flank. Oh, yep, I know that 15 is more than enough to get here. Getting +1 to his offense. 7 attacks, wounding on 3s. Yes, that's the perfect amount. I'll just put these out of the way. Freeze! Which would be... that's not a great amount of damage considering the amount of attacks you can pull off. But that's an extra 4 damage done to that behemoth, Ash.
I don't know that. 11.
11. Now the behemoth is going to need a morale check, unfortunately. And at this point, the behemoth... How much 11 did you say?
11.
Oh, you're going to have to roll 3 dice and get lower than a 6.
2. 4.
That's an 8. That behemoth is going towards the nearest table edge, which would be that one. Unfortunately, Ash.
Oh, it's got 3 down, so they need to take a morale check.
Yes, they're going to take a morale check. Now, we've yet to design rules for fleeing in a situation like this where you're surrounded by enemies and unstoppable terrain. But, so it's got a speed value of 10, which means it's going up 20 inches when it rushes. Yep, that behemoth has fled. The hero of the hour, charging through the mausoleum, running up and severing several of the beast's arteries, causing it to flee in terror. However, it flees through its allied unit, and seeing such a great beast barreling through them is enough to scare them. So those hunters, however, have not taken any damage, so they're only rolling 1 dice. And hunters have a morale value of 6, so unless you roll a 6, those guys are okay. They're not going anywhere. Suddenly, the playing field is looking not as bad. But Ash's war hero has yet to be activated, or warlord. So,
I'm not going to charge you, dude.
Well, you need to roll a minimum of 6 on these 2 dice. Oh, yeah, in there. Shall I just place it? Yep. And that, of course, is going to be a flank. So take your 7 dice, and on 3s, you wound me.
You got 4 there?
4. Yeah, I'll go 4 here if you need it.
Yeah, and I was being awkward.
Is that enough?
Yeah.
Okay.
What do I need?
You need 3s.
Cool.
Which you deal 4 4 damage, taking this beast to 12. It is close to death. It's going to take a morale check. Luckily, it's getting +2 because the wall leader, the wall lord, can keep it under control. But yeah, things are going to look bad. I have to roll lower than an 8 on 3 dice. And, well,
You got an 8.
I got an 8.
What's
Which,
that mean?
well, it's equal to, so it flees. And of course, the nearest table edge is this table edge here. And, well, that's a far greater distance than 20. Far less distance than 20. Which means my behemoth has fled from the field. It's like the heroes of this battle are seeking glory, wanting to slay these mighty beasts. I mean, they fled, but there's still glory in that. Now, Ash, the only unit you've got to activate is your warband, isn't it?
Yes.
Yes.
And the distance is...
Unfortunately, Ash, I don't think the warband can fit through this gap.
They can try.
I don't think they
pass
can.
through these, though.
They can pass through your allied men, yes.
Yeah, so that would be like... I'm going to need roughly 20.
Well, your maximum charge distance is 18.
Yeah.
However, there's nothing stopping you from pivoting them and moving them up 6. Get them into a position.
I'll do that. It's an Snazzy pivot, and how much is it?
Yep.
Go.
Right, and that is this round done. So let's have another roll off to see who takes it. Oh lordy, I really need a 6 here, and no, which means Ash gets to go first. Is she going to have a glorious one-on-one battle?
Yeah.
Ash, anything short of, well, an 8-inch charge is guaranteed because you move 6, you roll 2 dice, you're in there. You don't need to roll. Take your 7 dice and wound me on 3s.
I killed one of my men.
Oop.
How many dice, sorry?
7.
Yes.
This is in the front face.
Hypothetically, could I have moved straight and then gone for his flank?
I'm not sure because charging rules, at least this test game has shown that maybe you might not be able to pivot during a charge. I'm not entirely sure. I think you might not be able to pivot during a charge anyway. I'm just not entirely sure. There's a lot of rules to this game and a lot of it has changed over the course of these months. And not all of it is committed to memory, unfortunately. But the more we play, the more I know I learn about my own game. Well, I think that he has been turned into chunky salsa. So that is, 7 have all hit. And I believe the wall leader's health is only... Yeah, his health value is actually 7. So this war queen comes barreling through the mausoleum, challenging my hero, my wounded hero, before turning him into chunky salsa. And there you go. That is a game of Kror. I have been defeated. Ash is the victor. It was a good game. Yeah, well done. And there you go. There you have it. A game of Kror that can be played in, well, less than an hour. Of course, bigger games can take a bit more time. Bigger fields, bigger armies, more terrain. But yeah, that's the basics of it. And I hope you enjoyed this little video. And thank you very much. Say goodbye, Ash. Goodbye.